प्रजापतये इदं नमः Om.
I also welcome, I invite you all for the Guru Pujan. Thank you. May I request Mr. Abhijit Pawar to please welcome Guru Shri M with a token of our gratitude and appreciation. Thank you. Thank you. And may I now request Mr. Abhijit Pawar to please address this August gathering as we get started with day 3 of Sakal Presents Suhana Swasthyam. Welcome.
So good morning, everybody. It's truly a pleasure and a privilege and an honor to be with Pujya Sri M and spending time with him. You really understand the importance of a true master, a true Sadguru, because what you're looking for in life, the challenges, the questions, right from the purpose of your life, how to have a healthy life, how to even satisfy and balance your spiritual and material needs. All of us are searching for answers. Everyone has questions. And the ability for a true master to help you point in the right direction, realize those answers yourself, and to put you on that journey is probably the best thing that one can have in life. If you have a true master, you truly don't need anything. And I'm a living witness. I experienced that. I've been very privileged to have 2 living masters in my life. Shri Guru Balaji Tambe, who guided me at a very young age. And then I believe he's always there in a subtle, sukshma form. But there was always a lingering question that, am I really connected? I need another living master. And when Manal, my wife, she came up with this concept of Swasthyam, with the whole idea that how do you really look at the physical, the mental and the spiritual balance. And what can we give back to the society where all stakeholders come together. So I don't look at the sponsors, Vishal is here, all of them are good friends. We all have a duty towards the society. We were not here for the publicity or making profit or whatever. That's not the motive. The idea is how do you give back and share that experience that all of us have had the privilege having a master, being taught so many things about life. And therefore, when we decided to launch Swasthyam, and the first year we were looking at a true spiritual master to actually, come and inaugurate this function. And my master, my earlier master, had just left his body. And I was also searching. I said, I need more guidance. I need a living master. And trust me, I have had the privilege to have met with prime ministers, presidents across the world. Very successful people, the richest of the rich, the most powerful, the influential. I guess I was born in a family where I had access and the privilege to meet such people. And as growing up, I met all these people. Even if you're the richest man on the planet, and I've had the privilege to meet him, they were still searching for answers. They were still not happy. They were still unsatisfied. And no amount of money can satisfy that. And that's a witness that I can guarantee you that having met enough such rich people. And so somebody gave a very different definition of being rich. In Marathi we call it Srimanta, there is no English word for that, but Dhanik I can say. So someone who has 100 rupees but is very satisfied with 80 rupees is truly a rich person. But someone who has 100 and needs 120, unfortunately you're a poor person. So I've met billionaires who have billions of dollars but still need more billions. So, and I really feel that they're probably missing out on this spiritual journey. And you have to be really privileged and lucky and blessed, and I don't know, good karmas in your life to have a true master. So when we were searching for these masters, and I've had again, through media, I've met many people who are very famous on YouTube and generally have had massive followings in millions. But somehow I could not relate or connect. They were nice people, but I did not feel from my heart that this is the true master, having experienced a true master. And the description is there in the Bhagavad Gita, that who's a true master? Why do you really need him? But more importantly, the description of the bhakta is also there, which is extremely. And so she said, can you call Modi ji for this event? So I spoke to his office, I spoke to him, and I said, and I have probably been lucky that I know him well and I'm close to him. And I asked his office, I said, can you come for this event? My wife is asking. So I said, normally then he was, but I must say that he was very kind, although he could not come that year. But he organized a trip for Mrinal and me to visit Badrinath, Kedarnath and Neemkarori Baba. And he did it all on his own. He told his office and we had a very nice darshan. So we have a special relationship and a bond because we talk about spirituality and other things, unlike most businessmen probably. But in the process, I got a message from one of his close advisors that you call M, Sri-M. And so I thought his secretary was talking about Modi ji. So I said, now you're telling Sri Modi is now a spiritual guru and I have to call him? So he said, no, you Google Sri-M and you find out who he is. So I Googled him and fortunately they did not tell, they also contacted Sri-M, he was in Finland. And they said, and they did not introduce me, and which I was very thankful because Sri-M did not know who I was. I wasn't aware of Sri-M, and I said, sir, I got your name from the Prime Minister's office and I'd love for you to come and visit. And he said, yeah, come to Madanapalle in the ashram. So I went there. And they put me in a very simple place, and I loved it because there was cold water, no hot water, nothing, sharing with 3 beds. And I loved it because I was not treated because of my surname or my position or whatever. So I knew that Sri-M did not know who I was. And I thank the PMO that they did not tell my background because I had a different relationship with them. When I met him for the first time, and I was bowing down, and I said, and in my mind you remember I was praying to my earlier master that I need a living guru. And sir says the first thing, आपके पहले वाले कनेक्शन ने भेजा है एंड हम कई जन्मों से एक दूसरे को जानते हैं एंड आई वाज फ्लोर्ड so you hear stories where a disciple went to Sai Baba and then Sai Baba sent him to Swami Samarth and all that, and you feel that you're not the lucky one. You have this luxury of those people who met Sai Baba, who met Gajanan Maharaj, who met Swami Samarth or Jnaneshwar, and I wish I was born in that era. And you're like, you're born in this era and, you have not met a master. I can guarantee you we're celebrating 750 years of Sant Jnaneshwar. A couple of maybe years from now, whenever, people are going to say that I wish I had met Sri-M. I wish I was equally privileged and lucky. I don't know when people met Swami Samarth in that era, in those days, whether they really were aware of who he was. And therefore, we have the luxury and the privilege to have a living master amongst us. Those of you who know him already, know and have experienced him, know that this is the truth, it's a fact. And I just want to probably end my introduction. I can't describe him because he's not this body, I know that. There is no name for him. But I read a very interesting statement about having faith in something. And the faith definition, I've had many definitions, but I really love this one, and I was addressing to some of you I met yesterday. that faith is the ability to see the invisible. Because what you see here is not the reality. There is this invisible, and you have to be able to see this invisible. You have to believe in the incredible. That incredible, the Supreme Brahman, the higher power, you have to believe in that. And when you do this, what you receive is what the masses believe, not what we believe, but what the masses, the general people believe, is the impossible. And this impossible is made possible when you have a master on any level. Whether it's your purpose of life, your health, your wealth, it doesn't matter. And the best part is, after you get it, you realize that you didn't even need it, because you had the biggest treasure in your life. That is a true living master. I believe we all have done some good karmas in our last life or this life, that you, of all people, there were thousands of requests for this program. I don't know how many people were requesting. I still get calls that, can I have one seat, and so on and so forth. Those of you who are here present, I believe, must have done something good. I'm sure all of us have done something good for us to be in this place today, to listen to a great living master, one of those rare masters on this planet who visit us, I don't know how often. But I really urge you that when he addresses, and he always says, please just don't hear it or hear him, but listen. It is Chintan, Manan, Nididhyasana. We know that. So you need to contemplate. And the person that you are today, right now, and after the session is over, I hope that we are better, we are different, and more importantly, we practice what he's going to teach us. With this, without any further ado, I would request Sri-m Sir, Pujya Sri-m, to begin the discourse, and then it will be followed by Q&A for some time. So the topic is, Sir never knows the topic, so I have to tell him at the last minute. And he also puts me in a spot because he says, "Haan, aap puchiye kuch sawal." And then he'll be talking about Upanishad or something which I've never really studied or whatever it is, and then I'm really fluxed into what I should ask him. But with his grace, those questions also come automatically, so it's not me asking, it's he really guiding me through this entire session. So the topic, sir, today is about yoga, Upanishad, and most importantly, beyond. Thank you.
Yeah, yoga and beyond, over to you. Thank you.
Where is this man? थोड़ा ऊपर क्या? बस 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 ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ओम शांति 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 श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः. So, thank you, Abhijit ji. Now it's difficult to begin a satsang after so many flowers have been put on me by my good friend. Still, we will talk, we will discuss. आज कॉनरैड में है तो हिंदी में नहीं होगा भाषण, अंग्रेजी में हो. So, yes, the topic, well, that has been given to me. I agreed, of course, is yoga and beyond, or yoga, Upanishads and beyond. So let's look at the yoga, the word yoga and the word Upanishads and what they convey, and then perhaps we would be able to move beyond. You have to understand the barrier before you can jump, right? So first let's understand this. It is not a barrier in the sense like a physical barrier, but one has to get behind the ideas. That's what I meant by beyond. So let's begin with yoga. The last row, can you hear me? Okay. So, yoga. We all know yoga. Many of us are practicing yoga. Is yoga merely standing on your head and waving your legs? Or is there something beyond that? This is what the topic is at the moment. We will go beyond. Yes. Now, I don't know, I'm sure most of you are aware that in this country, blessed country of ours, since ancient times, the human being, especially one section of human being, have been always in the search for reality, for the truth. It's very easy to say, now this is the reality, you are sitting before me, we are sitting in front of you, there is a microphone, there is Abhijitji sitting here, and so on. The thing is, we think this is the reality. But is it the reality? Or is there something beyond what we see with our eyes, and hear with our ears, and taste with our tongue, and touch with our hands? Is there something beyond? It's a question. Let's leave it like that, with a question mark. Now, since the search for the truth has been going on for thousands of years, at least to a great extent in our blessed country, which is why for some years we remained a little backward in improving outside world, because the wisest among us was looking for the inner. So a lot of time was spent on that. And the inner, of course, the most important. If you have everything, and if you have not come to terms with the inner, there is no use of all that we have. Absolutely. So they were searching for that. And therefore, we call it Shad Darsanas. 6 darsanas were kind of defined. Now, many people translate darshana as philosophy. They say 6 kinds of philosophy. No, darshana is not philosophy. The very word darshana means what? Now I am having your darshan, you are having my darshan. I go to a temple, I have darshan of the deity. In fact, in Nepalese, the greeting itself is darshan. So, darshan means what? To come face to face, right? Very simple. To be face to face. Which Sudha always tries. Even if she lives in Bombay, she wants to be face to face. She's sitting there behind. So, this is called darshan. Face to face. So, face to face with what here? The truth. So all the Shad Darshanas, the aim is to be face to face with the truth. Have the darshan of the truth, therefore they are darshanas. I don't know if you will be surprised to know that many of the darshanas, starting from Nyaya, Vaisheshika, and so on, have nothing to do with the spiritual. Nyaya Darshana is to do with logic, tarka, investigation, law, justice, nyaya. Nyaya Diksh means what? Judge. It has nothing to do with that. So it's searching for truth in the material world, in society, how we can live properly, what is the right way to establish, get proof for what we are professing to understand, and so on. Then comes Vaisheshika. Again Vaisheshika is an enquiry, it's a darshana, it's an enquiry into the world. How was the world created? What is the essence of the universe? Actually, Vaisheshika goes very close to the Jain philosophy. They do not have a belief in a creator God, the Vaisheshikas. They say that the entire universe has come about through chemical combination, And the intelligence which is responsible for that is not an outside intelligence, but an innate intelligence inside itself. So you can in a way call it an atheistic philosophy. It is not. The great sage Conrad was a Vaisheshika. He was the founder of the philosophy of the Charvakas, who did not believe in any Ishvara, God, nothing. This is one of our darshanas, Shat darshanas. He was the one who coined the word Anu for atom. And he said everything has come about through a combination of atoms with their own innate intelligence, not any outside force, and so on and so forth. Their code of morality was also very loose in the Vaisheshika philosophy. In fact, even as early as Valmiki Ramayana, when Ramji is about to go into the forest in exile, a group of Charvakas appear in the palace. And they ask Rama, why are you going? Where are you going? What do you do? He said, I have to keep a promise. He said, there is no promise in this world. So he said, then what is the aim of life? Today, many young people who are not searching for the truth, the good people, would have the same answer. When Rama asked the Charvakas, what is the aim of life? They said, eat, drink, be happy and die. So, this is the Vaisheshika. Roughly. Charvakas are not the only branch of Vaisheshika. There are other Vaisheshikas who are very serious searching for the truth. But through the material world, analyzing the material world. Then comes the Sankhya. It's related to yoga, which is I am going back. Sankhya was the creation of the great sage Kapila. Kapila is so great in this whole structure of great teachers that in the Bhagavad Gita Krishna has to declare, among the Munis I am Kapila. Now Kapila is the founder of the Sankhya system. When you say Sankhya, literally it means numbers. Sankhya, adding, subtraction, algebra. But Sankhya also means how to find that which is hidden behind all numbers. For instance, in Sankhya there is an analysis of zero. They say Shunya. Shunya is not nothing, but Shunya is no thing, not nothing, no thing. Which means something which cannot be defined, but which has infinite value. You add zeros to one and how many can you make? Right? But as it is left without touching, it's shunya, nothingness. And so on. Sankhya is interesting because many of the later mathematical, physicist concepts have all been addressed in Sankhya. Even things like every straight line is part of a curve. We are not going into that. Now for the first time, well, if you go into that, you come out of Conrad and come back to me. The most important thing to note that it is the first darshana which admits of the existence of an Ishvara. After this. Not only does it do that, it defines Ishvara as the primordial essence of all being, both Prakriti and Purusha. It's a dualistic philosophy. There's Prakriti and there's Purusha. Ishvara is the sum total of all knowledge that exists from primordial times, omnipresent, omniscient and omnipotent. This is Ishvara. But there it has no form, no shape, no nothing. It's the pure wisdom that has all the knowledge of everything from the beginning. Primordial. This is Ishvara, according to Sankhya. The problem is, according to Sankhya, while this Ishvara they admit exists, which is the primordial, all-pervading omnipresent, omnipotent and so on. It's not, there is no way that the limited human being can touch that primordial Ishvara. They only have a postulation in the end saying that perhaps when the mind is absolutely mature, it may understand the concept of Ishvara. That's where it stops in Sankhya. Then comes the darshana called Yoga Darshana after Sankhya. So you will see that in Yoga Darshana, we are dealing with yoga, which is why I went through this whole thing. In Yoga Darshana, you will find that for the first time, not only has Kapila's Ishvara been accepted, but Patanjali is not somebody who is selling medicines in Haridwar. I am not talking about that Patanjali. The founder of the Yoga Darshana, Patanjali, the founder of the Yoga Darshana, says that not only we accept the concept of Ishvara as in Sankhya, but plus we accept that this Ishvara can also be communicated with. Otherwise, even though Sankhya is not atheistic, it is agnostic. Well, if there is Ishvara and we cannot do anything with that Ishvara, it has no meaning, right? In Yoga Darshana, for the first time, it appears, Patanjali says that that Ishvara can be in communion with the human soul, and the human soul can surrender to that Ishvara. Ishvara pranidhana, surrendering to Ishvara. There, the concept of Ishvara has undergone a change in which you and me as human beings can contact and surrender to that Ishvara. It therefore comes with the Yoga Darshana. After that comes Vedanta and so on, because there is Purva Mimamsa and Uttara Mimamsa, which is called Vedanta. So 6 darshanas. Okay, let's stick to yoga. In Yoga Darshana, the founder is Patanjali, and the most important text of Yoga Darshana, there are other texts, is the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. Now, in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, for the first time, Patanjali, while addressing the practices, which is the second chapter of Yoga Sutras called Abhyasa or Sadhanapada, he says Ishvara Pranidhana, surrendering to the Ishvara. After Tapaswadhyaya, then Ishvara Pranidhana, Kriya Yoga, this is called Kriya Yoga. That's what he says. This is not a Kriya Yoga retreat, so we will not go into that. But we will look at the concept of Ishvara Pranidhana and the definition of yoga. Patanjali himself, in the Yoga Sutras, after starting with Atha Yoga Anushasana, here begins the study of yoga. Atha Yoga Anushasana. Here begins the study of yoga. Defines yoga as yoga's chitta vritti nirodha, which means yoga is the capacity consciously developed to get rid of the vrittis and the chitta. Now, chitta, vritti, what? Vrittis can be good and vrittis can be bad. Bad meaning negative. Vrittis are the movements of thought that take place in the mind. In fact, if you look carefully, mind itself is thought. You cannot even conceive of a mind without thought. How can you conceive of a mind? If I say, wow, I am now free, I am completely still, I have no thought, who's saying this? Thought. And the mind exists, there is thought, you cannot say, I am When I say I am, it's already thought. The ego itself, ahankara, is created by thought. So, when you say yoga is chitta vritti nirodha, it simply means, according to Patanjali and according to our understanding, that the mind, what we call mind, is a movement of thought, sometimes up, sometimes down, sometimes depressed, sometimes excited. This is the movement, like waves. It's never still. It's never still. Now, even if the mind imagines it is still, it is not still, because the mind is there imagining. Right? So therefore, is there a state where the movement of thought comes to a standstill? If this happens, then there are no vrittis. If there are no vrittis, how can there be the mind? So what remains there is Purusha, not Manas. Purusha, which means the spirit or the spiritual essence of one's being, what we call Atman. Now the thing is, what Patanjali is trying to convey is that all that we think is consciousness is based on thought. We say, if I don't think, I am not conscious, right? It's based on thought. And where does thought come from? The brain. Right? In fact, Sankhya and Yoga Darshana both believe that the subtlest part of the food that you eat goes to form the mind, which means what? The brain. If the mind is an immaterial object, or immaterial thing, why would food sustain it? It should be independent. Doesn't need. So it refers to the brain. So we are saying, Patanjali is saying that a state when the mind has still, there are no vrittis, it ceases to be the mind anymore as we know it, which means it is no longer in the field of brain thought. It is beyond the brain. It is that because of which the mind has the capacity to think, but is not part of what is thought. Now this chitta vritti nirodha, that state, is the ultimate state of yoga? No. It is the tarmac from where it is essential, absolutely, but it is the tarmac from which you can take off to the higher levels of consciousness. So it is essential. If you don't have a proper runway or a tarmac, you imagine what will happen when the flight takes off. It will land somewhere. We have had some experiences recently. Either the aircraft is bad or the tarmac is bad. So, yoga is the bringing to full condition the aircraft, which is the body and the mind, which we use as an instrument to discover the truth, and the way to make the tarmac absolutely clear so that you take off to the higher levels of, which simply means that apart from quietening the mind, which is the beginning, there are higher levels of consciousness which are described in the Yoga Sutras in the first chapter called the Samadhipada. But first the whole blueprint is described in Samadhipada, and then you go to the practical, which is Sadhanapada. Without knowing where you're going to fly, if your GPS fails, and if you start flying, where do you land? So you have to have an understanding of where you're going. This is the first chapter of Yoga Sutra called Samadhipada, then Sadhanapada. So now I said, from there we go to the higher levels of consciousness. Now where are these, are there any texts where this higher level of consciousness which we talk of in Samadhi have been discussed? Yes, there are. Our tradition in India is rich in all these things. First, of course, there are the Yoga Upanishads. Hardly anybody reads the Yoga Upanishads. There are 25 Yoga Upanishads which have been taken from different yogas, different Vedas starting from Rig Veda onwards. Many of them are from the Yajurveda, Krishna Yajurveda. They are called the Yoga Upanishads. Fortunately for us, they are available in English translation now by the Theosophical Society Adyar, Chennai. It was translated by a great person called Upanishad Brahmendra, who's, of course, translated into Tamil, and now it's in English. Now these 22 or so, 20 or 22 Yoga Upanishads talk about what is beyond the Chitta Vritti Nirodha, beyond. There are Upanishads like Mandala Brahmana Upanishad, there are Upanishads like Hamso Upanishad, any other practices that you read in later textbooks on yoga, like Hatha Yoga Pradipika of Swatma Rama, they are already reflected in the Yoga Sutra, in the Yoga Upanishads, as ancient as that. They might have taken it and adapted it, but it is available to us. Okay. The other source which describes what is beyond, which perhaps is the most ancient that we have in the world perhaps, are the Upanishads. Now, there was an unfortunate elder son of the Mughal emperor called Dara Shikoh, whose younger brother was the Aurangzeb who created all the problems. His elder brother was Dara Shikoh. Dara Shikoh was a disciple of a naked Sufi saint called Sarmat. That itself is not allowed according to orthodoxy. Anyway, he for the first time translated the Upanishads, at least 30 Upanishads, for the first time into Arabic and Persian. And then when that went to Greece, the Greeks were astonished that there is such deep wisdom in this country where it comes from. And a great Greek writer translated few of these Upanishads and called it Upanikhat. That's when the Western world woke up, because they thought we were just wearing cowpins and walking around with sticks. When the Western world woke up and said, my God, what wisdom is this? We have never heard of this before, because it was going beyond anything that the mind can conceive, and yet it was linking the human being to it. What is the use if it is there and we are not linked? It was there and it was a link with the human being. These are the Upanishads. So what do the Upanishads deal with? Upanishad, to move closer to the reality. Upa, to move close. Shad, to sit down and listen. Mind also has to sit down, not only the body. And the knee is the connecting link between these two. The receiving mode. Because if one says, I already know, you cannot listen. Because that muck of I know is in my head. And therefore the Upanishads declares, he who knows, knows not. And he who knows not, knows. It's not a play on words. It simply means when one is filled with the knowledge that we know everything, there is very little chance of understanding the truth, because it's an effective barrier against finding the reality. That includes the ego which says, I know. Right? So, now it's there is no time, and this is not the venue to go into all the Upanishads. There are many Upanishads. The principal Upanishads are 11 in number, but there are many more Upanishads. All I have to say is, I will have to take up one example. You will see the content of the Upanishads from that one example. There is a very short Upanishad, only 12 verses. Only 12 verses. It's called the Mandukya Upanishad. It is only 12 verses. In these 12 verses, the entire understanding of the truth has been set up. How? By looking at the states of consciousness which are common to all human beings. No matter who you are, where you come from, what language you speak, what religion, it doesn't matter. Human beings. There are, according to this Upanishad, there are 3 common states of existence in which we all exist. And the 4th also, but most of us do not know that 4th. Knowing that is going beyond. So the known ones, what are the known ones? Mandukya, in fact I must tell you this, that the first Vedantic text to be available to the public in those days was the translation of the Mandukya Upanishad by Gaudapada, who was the grand guru of Adi Shankara. Supposed to have written it sitting in Badrinath. In fact, it was going so close to Buddhist teaching that some people thought he was a Buddhist. Because his concept of the Supreme Brahman and the concept of Shunya were going so close that they thought he was a Buddhist in disguise. Not true. So, in the Mandukya, the Rishi, it takes up the study of Om, Pranava. We all chant Om, we all know Om. We say that A is for Brahma, U is for Vishnu, and Ma is for Shiva, Maheshwara, which means creation, preservation, destruction, or somebody put it this way, generator, operator, destroyer, God. All 3 put together. So, this is the usual definition of Om that we have. Mandukya differs. It says the A of Om is the waking state of existence which we are all in. I hope everybody is still in waking state after this. Not in deep sleep. Okay. Hopefully. So, A is for the waking state of existence, common to all human beings, needs no explanation. I am saying needs no explanation because there is no time. Vedanta actually questions even the waking state and says, really, are you awake? Okay. The next state is the dream state, which is common to all of us. Here we need to give a little attention. It's a very interesting state. When I dream, it is very real. Right? I may be in the dream, I may be in a beautiful state, enjoying various things. Yeah? Or I may be, a tiger might be chasing me in the dream. But in the dream, while I am dreaming, except in rare circumstances, it is real, it's not a dream. The tiger is really chasing me, I am running. I'm sweating, my heart is thumping, and then I wake up into the waking Jagrata Avastha from Swapna. Then it's so real that I'm still looking behind. Where is the tiger gone? There is no tiger. Even now my heart is thumping, my pulse is quick, I'm sweating. Why? Because it was real at that point. When I wake up, waking state, Jagrata, Swapna Avastha has vanished. So, how can we say that the waking state is real and the dream state is unreal? Or is it better to say that while we dream, the dream state is real, but when we wake up, the dream state is an illusion? So, if that is so, then it is relatively real. It cannot be absolutely real. Waking is in relation to dream real, and dream is in relation to waking real. It is not absolute, it is relative. Who knows? So, okay. So when I'm dreaming, if somebody comes to me and says in the dream, hey, you're dreaming, shut up, there is no damsel dancing before you. I mean, suppose that's what I'm dreaming. Many people dream that. No heavenly celestial dance. Oh, you're dreaming. If somebody says that to me in the dream, I would say, shut up. Of course not. I'm not. See, can't you see this damsel here? Now the question therefore asked is, now we think we are awake. If somebody says you're not awake, you're dreaming, you say, shut up. What are you talking about? You say the same thing when you're in the dream. So what is the guarantee? In fact, they said maybe at one time, in this so-called waking state, which I think is real, I may wake up and say, oh my God, that was a long dream. Who knows? Now if I say, nobody will agree. Just as if I say in a dream that you're dreaming, nobody is going to agree. Right. Then the third, the ma sound, Om. Ma represents deep sleep, which also we know. Today, all of us, I think, sleep well, if at least with a tablet, there is no deep sleep. There's a maximum medicine sold today in the drugstore is for sleep. And of course, the new thing, how to remain young. Impossible task, but yes. Business runs by dreaming, yeah? Making dream a reality. So anyway, so yeah. Now in deep sleep, this is an interesting state. You are not aware of anything. Neither you see the outside world, nor you have a dream. You are in absolute bliss. Because in dream also you might be beaten up sometimes. Waking state you could be beaten up. In deep sleep nothing is happening. You are in complete bliss, ananda, paramananda. But you are not aware of it at that time. And everybody goes through sleep, deep sleep. Sleep equals everybody. The boss and the worker both sleep. I think sometimes the worker sleeps better than the boss. Because he doesn't have my ears to come work and go back and sleep. So, it's common to all human beings. And that is why we love to sleep, because there we don't even know who we are. The problem starts when I know who I am. Not in the absolute Vedantic sense, but in the worldly sense. Yeah, I'm an important man, and I went to a wedding and nobody recognized me. What worst thing can happen to me? But in dream there is no such problem. I'm in bliss, but I'm not aware of it at that time. I can't say that entirely, because after good deep sleep, in the morning when I try to wake up, I don't want to wake up. Why? It's so blissful. There is no world, there is nothing. I am in deep sleep, I don't want to get up. How many times have we switched off our alarms and gone back into bliss? Paramananda. So, which means we also remember saying, oh, it was a blissful sleep. But at that point we don't, when we are in deep sleep. So imagine a state where in deep sleep I am aware of it. Cannot be imagined, but try. That is called turiya. This is not common to all humans. Other three are common. waking, dream and deep sleep. This is not so common, but it is not so difficult as it appears, but we like to keep it away. Who wants to get into Turiya? No, there are many things to do. सब सुहाना है सब. So, this is the world we live in, and so to go beyond the Upanishad means not to go beyond and to go beyond the ordinary understanding that one discovers that there is something. When you say Turiya, then there is no individual being there. Everything is one universal bliss, a sea of bliss where you are identified with it completely. And any human being, whatever their station, can touch that because it is a human state. Of course, Turiya is a superhuman state, but all other states are human. So, now what happens? There is this last thing I'm dealing with, but you're going to ask me questions. So, if one has touched Turiya, let's say, speculate, somebody has touched Turiya, does that person become a vegetable? I mean, he's in Turiya. Please don't mistake Shushupti for Turiya. And you cannot attain Turiya through Shushupti, through deep sleep. That would have been wonderful. Unfortunately not. Now, suppose somebody has touched Turiya. Imagine. Does that person become actionless, does nothing, sleeps all the day? No. In fact, in Turiya one touches the source of all energy. The whole energy that is pervades the universe, one recognizes is not different from one's true self. And therefore, one functions in the world even better than a person who has not touched Turiya. The energy that we require is supplied constantly. It doesn't dissipate or become less. So, actionlessness should not be mistaken for Turiya. Actionlessness is laziness. It's like mistaking sattva for tamoguna. What is tamoguna? Always, everybody has a little bit of tamoguna, otherwise you cannot sleep. But to have 24 hours tamoguna is bad. Right? So, to stay absorbed in the Supreme and continue to do what you can on this earth is the entire teaching of the Bhagavad Gita, which is why it lays so much stress on karma, work. But very soon the work becomes not for oneself but for others. That change happens. So, I wish that all of you sitting here think about what we discuss now, about yoga and about the Upanishad, and perhaps one day go beyond. Don't think it takes years. When it is understood, it takes a minute or a second, like the batting of an eyelid, as they say in the Upanishad. And then one is free. One has not shaven the head or changed your robes or changed your hairstyle or gone anywhere. You are still here working. Right? But people will notice that this guy is different or this lady is different. Why? I don't know, something, no selfish interests are there. But energies are full. So this is the kind of people we need in this country, especially with the 55% tariff imposed on us in the United States. I am praying that let everybody come back here. There is no population problem, there is only a problem of sustenance. Come here and do the wonderful things you dream of doing that. There are wonderful sources which you can tap. Inside yourself is the ultimate Supreme Being. tap it and do the best that you can here. Then one day, we will have universities like the old Nalanda. One day, it's not there. People might say it already, I don't agree fully. So people from all over the world will come to learn your wisdom. This is my dream. I don't know when it is going to work, but this is my message to the youngsters. So, thank you very much. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. 45 minutes ho gaye, sir. Did I stick to time or?
So I think in your past life you were probably a German. You always want time. What Sir has said, I think, so just to get a little feeling from all of you. Usually, and I say for myself and I'm presuming for all of you, that when you do hear Sri-m or a living master, in the auditorium when you're sitting here right now, each of you as an individual, I'm addressing to you as that individual who's sitting here. At least for myself, you go through really a transition or a transforming process when you hear a master, hear his words, and your mind goes blank. And when this mind is blank, quite often when people come to Sir and say, I have questions to ask, and they are in front of him and they just go blank because they say, I wanted to ask so many things, but I just could not ask a question. And I think sometimes that is like a radar jammer that the master does, because those frequencies, those vibrations that he's sending, he spoke about yoga as a chitta vritti nirodha. And all the vrittis, at least for some time, completely have stopped, I think, for all of us. And therefore you get a taste of that, what would be a blissful thinking. Just at least a glimpse, which we can eventually go into that direction. So for us to be in this state that we are right now, when we leave this auditorium, and we go back to our day-to-day jobs. You go, you sit in the car, the driver's there. If he takes the wrong turn, maybe you get angry. You go home, you're probably going to have lunch. If it's not lunch that you liking, you get maybe upset or whatever. So all this that we hear about controlling the senses, your thoughts to be controlled, when you, as a mother who's out here, the children misbehave or are not studying, those parents who have now younger children, who are now adults, want to join the business or take a job, you're wondering what's going to happen to them because, there's probably less fire in the belly. You have aging grandparents who are worried about their health. Many of them, very unfortunately, are living in old age homes. And when you look at this society, and you have Bharat as a country which speaks about being a Vishwaguru, we have masters. Maharashtra is privileged to have had so many saints and so much learning, and therefore I really feel this Maharashtra name is appropriate only because of these saints who blessed us and were on this geography. But despite all this, you have these ups and downs, which is normal, which is natural. And so you as a professional here, as a grandfather, grandmother, as a father, mother, young student, young aspirant, on one side, when you look at a lot of initiates, devotees, people like you, there also is some sort of a self-criticism that, my God, I'm at this level, and how can I reach at the levels that you spoke of in terms of whether it's a samadhi path, the sadhana path that you have to do, what Patanjali has said. How do you achieve that at a realistic, practical level when you step out of this room? You said once, I can't remember, I think it was Emerson, you mentioned this in a lovely statement, that every saint has a past and therefore every sinner has a future. And so from that perspective, at whatever levels we think we are at, somebody here might be a very evolved soul, somebody may be just starting their journey, somebody's probably here for the first time, somebody's in between. To all of us on this journey, on our day-to-day practical lives, there are some people who've probably gone through bad divorces, they're single, married, all sorts of issues are there. There's worries, there's concerns. When you want to start this journey, so what is this first step? And those who have got initiated by someone like you, those who want to be initiated by someone like you, how do you really start from this? And therefore, my question really is that when you step out of this room and you go to your day-to-day life, how do you take these teachings and get it into your day-to-day practice?
I don't really have to say anything original on this because it has already been said, unfortunately or unfortunately. In any situation, like this for instance, could be 1, 2 people also. What happens here between us can be classified into a couple of things. One is normal, which is shravana, hearing through the ears, shravana. But hearing need not mean listening. One may hear, but one may hear along with other things coming in, not purely to what is being said. Because all of us, we are of a certain age, we have certain experiences. These experiences are all clouding our thought process always. I'm not saying in a bad way clouding. So therefore it's not possible mostly to do shravana, because shravana means pointedly listening without any other distractions. That's the first step. I have a feeling that there's lots of people who are sitting here, maybe all, I somehow feel that they have to a great extent listened carefully. I think so. Which is a good thing. Sometimes it's not possible. But I think Shravana part generally has happened. The next step is manana. That's what I said, there's nothing new, it has been said. Manana means when you go out of this situation where you and I are sitting together and talking, when you go out, wherever you go, maybe you are sitting for a cup of tea, or do the manana. Go through what has been discussed, what has been said many times while you go out and sit somewhere, when you go home, in any situation that one finds oneself in, try to see if there is a link between what was said, what was heard. Then it becomes manana. Manana doesn't mean to go on by-hearting what I said. No, that is not manana. People have this wrong impression that manana simply means to go on by-hearting what you and repeating what I said. No. Manana means to let the mind understand under different circumstances that what you heard, how does it apply to this situation. So if that can happen, when Shravana has happened, I think, when manana takes place, then comes nididhyasa. That means understanding how to apply it in your life. When all these three things work together, slowly the seeds that have been sown, they begin to sprout. But please understand that when a seed is sown, it doesn't become a tree in one day and then give flowers and fruit. It takes its own time. We can do nothing about it. The same thing that I am saying, there are many people here. It may register in different degrees. Why? Because we have our own baggage, right? Not in a bad way, we have baggage. So it will affect in different intensities. When it happens and it becomes really deep, when one understands, at least theoretically, what is being said, and then thinks about it in under different circumstances, then from there one can move forward. Then one begins to implement it in one's life. I'll give you a simple example. It's not easy, but possible. I go out and I ask for a cup of tea, and somebody gives me a cup of tea. The guy who gives me a cup of tea does not know, for instance, that I have diabetes. I don't have, I'm just saying. Today I usually take 3 spoons of sugar. I'm not saying you should. But suppose I have that. Now there are 3 ways of reacting, many ways of reacting. One is throw the tea. Anybody who listens to what we spoke now will not do that, I think. The other reaction would be, hey, don't you have any buddhi? How much sugar have you put here? Of course, people who deal with sugar will be happy, the more sugar you put, but generally. So, that is another reaction. The third reaction, one who has really listened to it, says, that guy has no idea what I am. He has given me out of love and affection a little bit of sweetness. So, let me drink it and then have a talk with him and say, hey, hello, next time give sugar separately so that those who want can use it and those who don't want will not use it. Now this, I'm just giving you a small example of how what has been heard can be absorbed. The other is, there was a guy today morning I was telling you who planted a seed. And after planting it, on the 4th day onwards, every night he used to pull it out to see if the roots are broad. I mean, how is the tree going to grow? So don't get that critical about yourself. Every day I have to pull out and see how. Leave it for some time to settle down. In its own time it will work, and don't get jealous if somebody is catching it better than you, because we all have different baggages. We are made differently, we have different parentage, we have, if you believe in past life, also we carry a lot of baggage. So the effect may take time and change accordingly, but we have to listen and absorb what we heard and try to implement in our life as best as we can. That's all that I can say.
So, in the Yoga Sutra, Sage Patanjali started with the Samadhi path.
Samadhi.
So, and then he went to Sadhana path, then Vibhuti, and then Kaivalya.
Yes.
So Samadhi,
The most dangerous being the Vibhuti path. Anyway, doesn't matter.
So in Samadhi path, it was the ultimate state, where you're supposed to go.
Yes.
Different states of Samadhi.
Yes.
In the sadhana is explained how to do that sadhana.
Yes.
Kriya is also mentioned over
Yes.
there.
In fact, Kriya is not only mentioned, Patanjali starts the sadhana para, the first sentence is tapas swadhyaya ishvara pranidhana Kriya Yoga, he says. So it is Kriya Yoga. Okay.
Vibhuti is like the superhuman powers that you will get, and hopefully you should not be stuck into it to reach the Kaivalya. So for us,
I'll tell you one of the Vibhutis. Today, I'll sit here and I don't know whether I talk nonsense or whether I said something. I don't know. But everybody is listening.
So you mesmerize us. You just, you do that Vibhuti path with us. So you manage to do that. So if we were to look at a purpose of life, we start today at whatever age stage we are in.
Yes. So that is in the Kaivalya pada.
The ultimate, fine. But to begin with, if the purpose has to be set, where you're talking of Samadhi, it's also said that you're talking before you even decide. Finally, as you said, a businessman can plan something. We have to have a plan, a thought comes in where this is what we want to achieve and this is what we want to go. Quite often what happens is you start with a negative, that, oh, I'm thoroughly useless, this other guy is so good. So you start criticizing yourself before you even start the planning or, taking the first step itself. How do you begin this journey where the beyond, as you mentioned, is so far off? And like you said that, every time somebody is like that, actually pulling out that tree and looking at the roots every day and saying, I'm not progressing. So self-criticism becomes a way of life. And the more you tell yourself that, I can't do it and whatever it is, obviously it's not going to achieve. What are you supposed to tell yourself when we start on this path? That do we aim for the samadhi path directly to begin with, or we have small goals, there's a step-by-step guidance, and then we move towards the sadhana way? Without that practice, abhyas, we can't do it. So how do we, what is the next step?
Yeah, so when you start, when one starts, start with a clean slate.
With a clean slate.
Clean slate. The clean slate is not that I am useless. So when I say clean slate, now think of all the teachings that have come to us. The Upanishad says, Purnam Adap Purnam Idam. Right? So we are not useless. We are not nothing. If that is Purna, this is also Purna. Purnasya, from that Purna, this Purna has come. Purnameva Vashi, that is only Purna. So the positive way to start is by saying, I am actually Purna. I am not useless or anything of that kind, which is not true really. But I haven't discovered it yet. That is what they say, those who have touched the heights. So, may I also move in that direction, into that Purnata. This is a good way to start, so that will prevent negativity from coming, like saying, or also to give up easily, saying, people work hard for years to make some money or to reach a position, but in this they want a quick fix. There is no quick fix in this matter. But there is also, one need not be despondent or desperate, it is not working. Start with a positive frame of mind that according to the Upanishads, according to the teachings, we are Amritasya Putras, children of immortality. We are not useless. We are useless as we see ourselves, but not so really. Then that self-criticism, while it will become self-observation, will not become self-criticism. You know what I mean? It's good to observe, but not criticize. If I criticize myself all the time, there is no way that I can improve myself. Nobody is a saint. What you quoted, you said, I said, it's not mine.
No.
I went to Rome and visited the Pope, who was before this Pope. And he, in the course of his speech, said that. Later on I discovered that it's a quote from Oscar Wilde, that every saint has a past and therefore every sinner has a future. So, there is no sinner. The future is a saint. So have that positive mode. However much you fall, get up and proceed. That's what I think.
So what you're saying is that the future us is you. Is that what you're saying?
Not me as I am here, but you know what I mean.
I know. I get lost, so tell so many things. I'm just totally absorbed. The other thing what happens, sir, is that quite often it happens that, okay, I am now on this journey. I'm not using my wife, she's a complete support for me, but the spouse, the husband or the wife may not be supporting, or the children may not support, or the in-laws may not support, or your friends don't support. So when you start walking on this path, you start getting resistance from somebody else, which is the environment, the ecosystem around you, whether you're dealing in government, you're dealing with, your job, your employees, friends, whatever. So suddenly you start getting isolated and you're like, he's different, or, something where, you are judged, prejudiced, and then people get disheartened that, how I can change myself, but how do I change the ecosystem around me? So how do I handle this situation?
Now please, you know it, please remember that I am also a married man. I am not a sannyasi. So, I also have some problems like that. So, I'm saying...
So all married people are
yeah. So you can survive, so there is no problem. You should just know how to handle this, because but of course, much of my spiritual journey happened before I became, instead of 1, 2, but even then, there is a problem, there might be problems, there may be resistance, especially if one feels that one is not getting enough attention, it happens. So if you're lucky, the other partner may not be like that. If you're not, there may be a problem. But I think it can be handled. I have done it in my life. I'm a married man. I can, okay. Yesterday, if I said to my wife that, maybe this is not the first time, when I first met her, that we are going to be husband and wife. In the past, reaction, oh, all rubbish. So you see? So, but then still I handled it properly. When you reach a core where you are all settled, none of these things are a problem. You can still handle it and move forward. That is my understanding, it's my experience. That has nothing to it, it's to do with myself, not with the other person. If I am okay, that person will fall into place. If I am not, if I keep pushing, then it's not going to work.
I think some of us, as we started doing the Kriya, practice it more and more, what started happening is that you want to drop something, maybe a bad habit or whatever, but actually the habit drops you and you don't even realize when that other thing. So whether it's the ecosystem or around you, it doesn't start affecting you because of Kriya. And you said about Tapa, Swadhyaya and Ishwara Pranidhan. And I think, can you explain a little bit more on these aspects, that what Tapa, what sadhana we need to do so that we are getting stronger and are able to face these challenges?
First of all, tapas comes from the word heat. Tap. And the heat is generated in the mind, not physically. Those days of tapasya, standing in the water up to your neck with your hands up, they have gone now. In fact, a very prominent person recently went to the river in Banaras and stood up to here and did something. Called up and said, check up because it can cause pneumonia. So that tapasya is not there now. It's not going, this is Treta Yoga, Dwapara Yoga, people did tapasya like that. Today tapasya means when everybody is swimming along a certain stream, as we all do. Society is made up of different streams in which we are put in. One fellow stands up and says, no, I don't agree with this. I'm going to swim against the stream. Now when that happens, a lot of heat is generated. Physical heat, mind heat, social heat, political, all kinds of things happen. Heat meaning friction. How does heat come? Friction. That is tapasya. There, if you can hold on and say, yes, whatever happens, I will swim against the stream. Interesting. After some years, you will see that others who are swimming in the stream are also swimming with you in the same stream. My experience. So this is tapasya. Then there is swadhyaya. Swadhyaya, one is self-study. Just what I said, Shravana and then Manana and Nididhyasa. Trying to study oneself, not simply hearing or reading something and saying this is what this guy has said. No, let me study it myself and figure out how it affects me. Swadhyaya. Ishwara Pranidhana. There may be times in your life when you did whatever you are supposed to do, still things are not working. Then you accept that there is an infinite Ishvara who is omnipotent, omniscient. Surrender to that Ishvara, saying this limited brain of mine has not been able to solve this problem. And then if you truly do that, really from the heart, not to show anybody, some help comes. This is how I have. The other thing you said a couple of points, one of them. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Okay.
So basically, sir, what you're saying is that the moment we have an issue with a relative or a friend or the society at large, we should look at it as a friction which is generating heat, which is tapa.
Yeah.
But as you said earlier that if, as the tea example you gave,
Yes.
that if I can control my reaction,
Yes.
rather than getting annoyed that
Yes.
my partner doesn't support or whatever.
Getting annoyed and taking it headlong is not a solution.
So that's also tapa, that you're actually controlling that reaction
Yes.
is tapa.
Yes. When
So-
I said heat, I meant heat, not sparks flying.
In terms of, when you embark on this journey, by and large, if you take Arjun Vishad, typically unless you don't go through some tragedy, some medical issue, some emotional issue, whatever, something happens and then you're like, oh my God, all the rational, logical mind is not working, the help is not working. And then you sort of, turn towards something at the higher. In fact, people go to astrologers. And I would love for you to, in fact, one of my very close friends who never believed in astrologers and whatever it is, his daughter was getting divorced. And suddenly he was going to every astrologer possible. And then the astrologer started guiding. So you also went to an astrologer at one point in time and you were told something
Don't tell me about that astrologer. Because before going to the Himalayas I went at the age of 19, I ran away from home. So I went to this guy when I was 6 months before that. He looked at my kundali or whatever, drew some lines. Then he looked at my palm. Then he said, you will marry 3 times. Believe me. And you will have 6 or 7 children. And you will make a lot of money, completely reverse. But now I can say maybe he's not a good astrologer, I don't know what, but this is what, after that I stopped all this astrology business because they were discouraging me to do what I was trying to do. Okay, now let me give an example. If you look at the kundali and everything, when you say Jyotisha, it's one of the Veda Angas, I agree. When you say Jyotisha, in Sanskrit, it means astronomy. It need not mean astrology. Astrology is a sub-subject of astronomy. It's not the main. Jyotisha is astronomy, which of course is wonderful. Now, you see in daily life, they have checked everything. All the kundalis, the moon is standing in the 10th house and smiling at the 6th house and so on and so forth. Everything is done. And then you get the marriage done. 2 weeks the marriage is gone. What kind of astrology is this? Or 2 people are in love with each other. Really they love each other. They are not allowed to marry because that kundali, that moon is not in the 6th house. And perhaps that one of them goes and commits suicide. Who is responsible for this? So, personally I don't get, maybe it's there, maybe, but I don't. Until now it has stood me in good stead. So you connect.
So I was correcting from a perspective that Arjun Vishad, any such problem happens. There are different.
Yes. So therefore, that does not mean that we should invite problems. I will try to search for the truth only if I have a Vishada. It's not that. Life itself, in many ways, there are happiness and there is also disappointment. And at the point when one is suffering, then only most people begin to wonder if there is something beyond or only this. Otherwise they are all hunky-dory, all fine. When something strikes, oh no, how did this happen? I thought I was all powerful. How do I get out of it? Right?
Yes.
So this is Arjuna Vishada Yoga, or we are all Arjunas that way, the beginning. And then Krishna is trying in the rest of the chapters to take Arjuna out of that Vishada. which is the spiritual progress of mankind. Nobody is there who doesn't have some kind of vishada, I can assure you. Something will be there. But when it becomes really like the great Guru Nanak said, Dukh mein sumiran sab kare, sukh mein kare na koi. When you are really no other help, you say, oh God, help me, and do all smaran. Simiran is a Punjabi for smaran. In sukh, no simiran. You light a few agarbattis and God is happy, fine. There is no. So, sometimes, in many cases, sad pain and misfortune make us turn towards another direction and see, is there something else? If you're lucky, if there is someone to lead you, guide you, help you, of course there are the texts, then you move towards the path. I'm not saying therefore that you should embrace sorrow or try to get sorrow when you don't have sorrow. This is like torturing yourself. You don't have to do that. This is what Buddha did. He was also a Shravana once, and he was fasting himself to death, almost. Then it occurred to him that this kind of mortification cannot give nirvana. Seeking freedom and what. So he was very hungry. Somebody gave him some food. So he ate that food and sat under the peepal tree and said, now I got it. You see? So extreme measures are not okay. But you're right. When sorrows come, one begins to think, is there something beyond this world? And how can we go there? As happened to Arjuna. He was a lucky guy because we had Krishna.
So, in Bhagavad Gita, every chapter it's mentioned it is yoga.
Yoga. Every chapter.
That also is there for yoga. And to then address these problems, he sort of suggested there's a karma yoga, there's jnana yoga, there's bhakti yoga. And bhakti yoga apparently is the easiest. But after reading the other Bhakti Sutra,
not so easy.
Bhakti yoga seems to be probably the most difficult. I think it's probably easy said than done. So, if somebody says, I want to walk this path, I want to walk on this path.
Yeah.
And do I do the karma yoga? Do I do the jnana yoga? Do I do the bhakti yoga? And the concepts behind that. So for somebody, I do give some donations and I just help some charities. I'm doing good karma. And the rest of the day, whatever one does. How do you really understand the real meaning of what? How do you move from a karma yoga to a karma yogi? Or the yoga to yogi? How is that transformation happening on these paths?
First of all, let me clarify the first statement. Yes, every chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, including Arjuna Vishada Yoga, is called a yoga, agreed. But it's made in such a way so that everybody cannot approach in one way. It was the first attempt at seeing that people with different natures, different thought processes, can move to the truth in different ways. Need not be the one way. So while it is true that it has 18 chapters, it has only 18 holes, the watering hole is not there in the night. So while it is true that it has 18 chapters, it does not mean that everybody should follow all the 18 chapters. Not possible. Because human beings are made differently. Rarely some people can follow jnana yoga, jnana marga. Everybody cannot. Now, karma yoga is in a way good because we know what is karma, action. What we don't know is nishkama karma, which means we know action, but we have some desire, and that desire, if it is not fulfilled, then we fall flat. Then it is not karma yoga. Karma yoga is doing, helping, working with the understanding that even if you are not doing anything, your mind is working. It also keeps you from laziness. It makes you work. And karma yoga becomes true karma yoga when you do your work and not so concerned about what happens in result. Because 50% of our energy is spent, suppose we fail on that failure, and we are not able to take off from there, we are stuck with this, in that gloom. So if you can say, okay, fine, step forward, next step, then you are doing karma yoga, like a karma yogi, without being attached to it. Well, if you are fully involved in it, generally 90% it has to be a success. But there are other unavoidable circumstances because of which it may not be. What is the point of falling into this trap of saying, I am done, now it's gone? You have to stand up, shake it off and say, okay, there must be some mistakes, let me find out and move forward. This is a karma yogi. And the greatest of karma yogis is one who, even doing the greatest actions on earth, which are good to other people, to humanity, considers that these are all the gifts of the Lord and I have nothing to do with this. This is rare, but there are such people. Yeah. And what else did you say? You asked so many serious questions together that I forget what did you say?
No, I was just saying the different paths. You
yeah.
answered.
So there are some persons can follow karma yoga. The other day somebody came to me and said, I don't know about all this meditation, but I like to serve people. I said, you're already a yogi. Do that. This is karma yoga. At one point, the thought for finding the truth will occur. It will occur. I have seen this happen before. But when you give without the left hand knowing what the right hand had given, Jesus Christ. So this should be the way. Now, if you do that, then you are also automatically becoming refined and moving towards an inner understanding. Okay, bhakti. Bhakti is something that naturally comes, so some people say it is easier. No, in the Bhagavad Gita, no commentary, it has been mentioned that it is the easiest path. All right, but some people have said, and it is true in a way, because it's namasmarana, kirtana, bhajana, which we anyway do. What happens? Most people like music, right? Most people. If you don't do kirtan bhajan, what will you be doing? You will be singing pop songs, popping brandy and jumping around. That's also interest in music, right? Instead of that, shift it to kirtanas, bhajans. Music is interesting to everybody. So through music, through singing, through chanting, namasmarana, also one can move. But don't forget the main thing that Krishna said in the 12th chapter of the Gita. I said it yesterday also. The 12th chapter of the Gita is called Bhakti Yoga. So very often people ask, why did it take such a long time to talk about Bhakti Yoga? Vyasa could have put it in the beginning itself if it is so important. The reason being, Arjuna was not ready for it. Only when a person like Arjuna, like we are all Arjunas in this sense, is ready, then the bhakti has, and you can understand bhakti. Till chapter 10, it's normal. Krishna is talking to Arjuna like they are good friends, they are relatives, same age group, had many adventures together. So there is an equality between the two, he's talking. Then comes the 10th chapter. Suddenly Krishna changes his record. Till now you are saying, Arjuna says, I can't understand this, I don't agree with you. He says, okay, let me explain, like a friend. In the 10th chapter, Krishna suddenly begins by saying, among the immovables, I am the Himachala. Among the mountains, I am the Meru. Among the Munis, I am Kapila. Among the Vedas, I am Samaveda. And Arjuna is wondering what happened. Till now everything was going fine. We were talking to each other like friends, and now he is saying, how can he be the Meru? Slowly, here, the ordinary logic of the human being, which comes to conclusions very fast, defines it and sticks to it without moving, that Krishna is my friend, he's sitting and talking to me, and the divine aspect is almost forgotten. Then when Krishna says this, Arjuna begins to wonder, what is this now? What is this guy who was talking to me? We know him. He was cavorting with the gopikas there. Now why is he saying I am the Meru and the thought process is changing. Then comes the 11th chapter, Vishwarupa Darshana. There Arjuna realizes, oh my God, this guy I was talking to is not what I think he is. It's something more than that. That's a complete theophany experience. So, Arjuna's ordinary logic, which is that is what I define, his definitions have been broken slowly. It's only when the definitions are broken that true devotion comes, Ishvara Pranidhana, because then you realize that this is not what I thought, it's something else. It's greater than what I... So then I said, this logic is not going to work. So what should I do? So then comes Bhakti Yoga. And now this is interesting in Bhakti. I think we have time.
I'm checking. Yes.
So, in the Bhakti Yoga, Arjuna begins, the chapter begins by Arjuna asking Krishna, who do you think is the greatest of yogis? One who worships the infinite, supreme, almost unpalpable supreme Brahman, as the rishis have done, or someone who worships a human being, ordinary human being, or a divinity in the form of you, for instance. Who among these you consider to be the greatest of your devotees? By now Arjuna is convinced this is not an ordinary being. Right. So, that's where it starts, the 12th chapter. Well, he explains to him saying that the rishis worship the supreme Brahman, that's fine, there is no problem, but it's very difficult path to follow because most of us live by nama and rupa, form and name. How do we distinguish a person by his name, by her name? Or when I hear the name, I see the form, or I see the form and I know the name. Right? Nama, Rupa. We are so attached to Nama and Rupa that it is not so easy to meditate on that supreme, all-pervading Brahman. So therefore, if you say we are not attached to ourselves, you just have to decide how long we spend in the morning when we wake up in front of the mirror on top of the wash basin. Right? Is everything okay? Is the eyebrow properly arched? Is the, all that. No, the other side is the moustache properly trimmed. So we are so attached to ourselves, to our bodies, our figures. How do we disattach from that and go to something which has no nama rupa? It's not so easy. And yet, it is possible. Then he says, but according to me, my dearest bhakta, closest bhakta, or let us say the greatest yogi, perfect human being, is one who has three qualities. That I call yaha bhakta same priya, that bhakta is dear to me. What are these qualities? If these qualities are there, no matter what the modus operandi of worship is, I consider that person as the dearest and greatest of my bhaktas. What are the three qualities? One, the one who has hamniyam indriya gramam, one has control over his emotions and his sense organs. Two, one who is sarvatra sama buddhaya, which means whose mind is tranquil under all circumstances, not in one circumstance. It's easy to be tranquil when you're meditating. When you go out into the open world, is it possible the mind to be balanced, not even tranquil, balanced? Sarvatra sama buddhaya, can the buddhi be sama under all circumstances? And last, sarvabhuta hite ratha, one who has concern and kindness for all living beings on this earth. If these three qualities are there, ya bhakta same priya, that bhakta I consider to be dearest to me. Maybe some of them are not singing songs, or that's all right. When one celebrates, of course, bhakti, that is a different matter. These are the qualities. If these qualities are there, no matter which formula you follow, from the 18 chapters of the Gita, yoga, you come to, according to Krishna.
That's a beautiful note to end on. I think we started by saying that what will be the difference between now and when we leave the auditorium. So if you can be a true bhakta with the three qualities that we try to imbibe, I think we would have done justice to your time over here. With this, I would like to thank all of you, and I presume the next session. Thank you very much.
Om Shanti Shanti. Thank you. Dhanyavad.
Thank you very much. A round of applause, everybody. A louder round of applause. Thank you. Requesting everyone to kindly take your seats as we immediately begin with our next session. Also request you all not to gather outside as we quickly need to get into our next session. सर्वांना विनंती आहे की प्लीज बसून घ्यावं. आपण लगेचच पुढच्या सेशनची सुरुवात करतोय. Our next session is on wellness, leadership and discipline in the armed forces. And our speaker is retired Lieutenant General V.G. Khandare, PVSM, AVSM, SM and former Principal Advisor, Ministry of Defence and former Military Advisor, NSCS. Lieutenant General V.G. Khandare is a highly decorated officer with over 4 decades in the Indian Army, has extensive operational, instructional and UN peacekeeping experience. After retiring in 2018, he served in key national security roles as military advisor at NSCS and as principal advisor at the Ministry of Defence until 2025. He is recognized for his expertise in intelligence, defense diplomacy, capability building and handling complex security and military affairs. Awarded multiple gallantry and distinguished service honors,